here we go. We're going to talk now about what happens after we're done loading up. How do we start our swing? Now there's a lot of people that may think, I'm just going to get the bat to the ball as quick as I can. Now that's what we want to do, but how do we start it? How do we deliver the bat to the ball? As I mentioned in the beginning, when we first talked about hitting, the object is nothing more than, let's put the barrel of the bat onto the ball as consistent, or on the most consistent basis as possible, as consistently as possible. That way we can hit the ball hard as much as possible. So how do we start that? Very simple for me, okay? Extremely simple. I want to think about an area of my body that we call our hips. I call it the core. Other people call it the core, but I want to define what I mean by the core of my body. If I were to take the section that is below my chest, so the start of my ab muscles here, to just above my knees, that is going to be my core, the middle section of my body. I want to take that portion of my body from here to here. In order to start my swing, I want to think about turning it towards my target, towards the baseball, towards the pitcher. So if I'm going to look from the front, I'll show you what this looks like from the front. If the ball is here and I'm getting ready, I want to load up. Stride hands go back, and from here I want to leave the bat right where it's at. I'm not going to take the bat and try to swing it with just my arms. I'm going to leave it here for a second. I'm going to leave it right where it's at, and I'm going to think about taking that core section, that middle part of my body, and I'm going to start to turn it towards my target. Notice I'm not trying to spin and go to the side over here towards the dugout. I want to think about turning it, and I want to really think about going in this direction, towards the baseball. It would make no sense for my body to turn that way when I'm trying to swing this way. I want everything going towards the ball, into the baseball. Same way again, we just mentioned, we want to think about throwing this thing like we're chopping down a tree. I want all of my energy going into that tree. I want all of my energy going into this baseball. So, I'm going to load up, stride hands go back. I'm going to start the swing by turning my core towards my target. I'm leaving my hands where they're at, but notice, when I start to turn my core, I'm thinking that the bat stays here. As I start to turn, okay, I'm not just thinking hips, I'm not thinking turn my back foot, I'm thinking this center part of my body, bottom of my chest and the top of my knees, I'm thinking of starting to slowly and controlled turn it towards the ball. Now notice the bat will start to move. My hands are still in the same spot. I'm just now turning the core. Not just my shoulders. I'm going to keep my shoulders where they're at for right now too. I'm doing from here to here. I am going to turn towards the ball. Turn towards the ball. Now as I do that, my back foot is going to start to turn. You can see from here. Let's go back enough so you can still see my feet. If I'm going to load up and I start to turn my core, my back foot's going to start to turn. I don't have to think about doing that. I don't have to use the term squash the bug or something like that. My back foot will turn. Once we start the swing, we're going to gradually add more parts. So I can't just swing the bat the whole time by loading up, turn the core, and just leaving the bat where it's at. I have to now move the bat and use my arms, my hands, and ultimately get the barrel going to the ball. So, if you're following along, which I hope you are, after we've loaded up, I want you to think, turn the core towards the ball. Imagine you've got, okay, two little flags, or headlights, or something, lasers, pointing this way. They're on my hips, both my hips. I'm going to point them they're pointing out. I want to think about turning those lasers towards the baseball, towards my target. So if I stride, I load up, and I start to turn, eventually I'm going to get to the point where I'm turned all the way, but I want to think I have to start my swing by turning those towards the target. Turning towards the target. Now we can, as we get better with that, once we realize that Yeah, we're starting with the right part of our body. We can start to move that a little faster. Coach Luddy talks about all the time, hey, use those hips, explode there. That's going to be where your power is going to come from. Now why? I've just said this is how I do it, but I want to stop and say why I do it. Now what type of muscles are in this part of my body? It's the core, it's the middle, you think? What kind of muscles? This is where my big strong muscles are. Right, we've got our rear end, our hamstrings, our quads, our hips, our core, our ab muscles. These are some really big strong muscles in our body. And as you probably can think about, we can lift a lot more as far as weight with our lower body than we can with our upper body. And people always say, use your legs, use your lower body, use your hips. I'm just going to say, use your whole core. Use it. This whole section, it's including your back, and this whole midsection of my body, I'm going to think about turning towards the baseball. Now once we get going, that's just a little bit. The core is going to start to turn by itself. Load it up, it's going to start to turn by itself. And now as I get going, I'm going to think, I need to start adding my arms, and then finally my hands, and I'll bring the bat right to the baseball. But I'm going in this direction. So by turning my core to start to swing, okay, then adding the other pieces, we're starting from the inside and moving out. Inside and moving out. What's this going to do for my swing? It's going to set my bat on the correct path. Why? Because instead of, if I started with my hands going first, the bat's going to be going that way. I want the bat going towards the ball. The ball's coming this way, I want the bat to go, for the most part, right at the baseball. It's not possible for it to keep going all the way at the ball. It's going to go around because we're swinging around. But just understand, for the most part, I want the bat going in this direction, right at the baseball. We get it started on the right path by turning towards our target with our core. And then along the way, we will add the other pieces. We'll add our arms, our hands, and finally the barrel of the bat last. And if we start from the inside out, at the end, this part is going to be going as fast as it possibly can when we get to contact. So that's point number 2 within the swing. As I say, a lot of things are going to be consistent with. There's 5 total points, 5 dots. The first one is our stance, as I mentioned. Number 2 is the load up. Number 3 is going to be the point of contact, or turning to the point of contact, delivering the bat to the point of contact. In order to do that, we have to start the swing the appropriate way. But as I mentioned, there are 3 things in the middle of the swing that are pretty consistent with all great hitters. So the second, third, and fourth points. This is the second one of those. This is the start of the swing and how we get to contact. So as I mentioned, start to turn with your core, keeping the bat, it's going to stay close to my body now, and now I can add the arms, the hands, and finally the barrel as I get to contact. Does that make sense out there, guys? I'll show you from the side. Now, we may all look a little different along the way, but if I'm going to think, I want to get the bat to the ball, I want to go the shortest distance possible from the time I load up towards the baseball. Right? Shortest distance possible, quickest distance, or quickest way to get to the ball is going to be the shortest distance from wherever I load up. So I load up, I'm going to start to turn, and now I'm going to add everything else to the point of contact. This is a big part right here, because we want it to build up. Here's the analogy that I use, and I think you've heard me say it before. We're going to start smooth, and then we're going to accelerate towards the baseball. Accelerate through the baseball. Why? Because you want the bat going as fast as you possibly can get it at the point of contact. Not at the start of your swing. It's not, I'm going to swing fast, because you're going to only slow down. You're not going to be able to keep that up. So let it build. Slow, and then we're adding the pieces. Starting here, start the engine going slow with the core, and then it's, we add the arms, the hands, and finally the barrel. It's like a roller coaster. I think you've heard me say this before. The load up in our swing is when that roller coaster is going up the hill. click, 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 and you're like, this is awesome. I can't wait to get to the top, and we're going to start going down. But when you get to the top, what happens? The roller coaster kind of pauses a little bit, goes slow, and then it starts to build up speed. As it's going down that hill, it's building up speed, and finally by the bottom of that hill, it's going as fast as it can. Just like our swing, we want it to build up. The load up, click, 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 click. It gets to the top, and we can't just go full speed from the top. We have to let it build. Start to turn. It's starting to build up speed. Now we're adding our arms. Build up more speed, add the hands, and finally the bat, and we're going as fast as we possibly can at the point of contact. We're going to do as much damage as we can, put as much energy as we can into that baseball. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I know I talked a lot there, but please, if you're following along, take some notes, write this down, practice this. Practice using your body in the right way so we can get the bat moving as efficiently but also as effectively, as fast as we can when we're getting to the point of contact.